Hi, this is Damien from The Other Side, wishing you and your family a very happy new year. We're back on Friday, January 24 for a brand new year of The Other Side. Until then, presenting a selection of our best clips from last year. Here's one now. As we reported last month, we are in big trouble. This could be the end of the road for The Other Side and a lot of other independent media in Australia too, and for your free speech and free voice on social media. Because the Albanese Labor government's new MAD laws, misinformation and disinformation laws, will see us forced to shut down. Like a pre-crime, platforms like YouTube simply will not put themselves at risk of massive fines from Australia's power-mad bureaucrats and e-Karens. So no political content or commentary will be allowed on major social media platforms. And even if we were allowed, we couldn't afford to put ourselves at risk of prosecution, so we'd have to shut up shop. That would be a very good outcome for the establishment, and it's exactly what they want and why they're doing this. We said a couple of weeks ago that it's good for the Labor Green Party and it's good for the Liberal National Party, which may explain why, even though this is the most illiberal, dangerous, free speech annihilating legislation to have come before our parliament in decades, the Liberal Party opposition was so slow to come out and totally condemn the law and just say, no, we're not having anything to do with it. Well, now they've at least said that they want the bill scrapped. But the Liberal National Party coalition says they're going to replace the misinformation and disinformation laws with new and improved ones of their own. Oh, great. That's some opposition, guys. Some protecting of free speech right there. The very essence of free speech is that the last people who should be in charge of enforcing censorship are bureaucrats and politicians, which actually means at the end of the day, nobody can really police free speech. And that's how it should be. We have to allow speech that is offensive, dangerous, wrong, dishonest, hateful, and hurtful if we want to be truly free. This is why we have to be grown-ups and strong and capable adults and simply accept that we are the ones who decide whether we get hurt by what other people say. Now, we should still condemn hateful and hurtful speech and call out lies and deception loudly and strongly and shine the light of truth. But we do that with more speech, not with police knocking on your door and carting people away for what they wrote on Facebook like they do in totalitarian, authoritarian left-wing states like Britain, for example. We don't want to end up in the mess that the UK is in right now. So no, we don't want an alternative bill of laws on this from the Liberal National Coalition. Thank you very much. We want the thing burned and for it to never raise its ugly head again. Well, one political party that's not pulling any punches on this is the Libertarians, the Libertarian Party, formerly the Liberal Democrats. And joining me now is a man who's been studying this legislation very carefully as it's changed over time. He's the lead Senate candidate for the Libertarians in Victoria for the upcoming federal election, probably next year, Jordan Ditloff. Jordan, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me, Damien.
Now, mate, you are a law graduate. They've added some pretty interesting things to this legislation since the last time that it came and reared its ugly head late last year, and they knocked it down. I thought they weren't going to bring it back. Why do you reckon they've brought it back, and how has it changed?
Yeah, well, last time we spoke about this, I actually said to you that I thought they might not because it wasn't part of their legislative agenda. But this tells you that there are whips at their backs. And I think those whips are coming from the globalist agendas of the WEF and the UN and other sources. You can see these kinds of legislation being rolled out around the world. And I think that it's definitely not out of political survival instincts, that's for sure.
No, it seems quite odd. And I mean, I have a reputation for being a bit slow on conspiracy theory adoption. I'm very, very careful about this. But the WEF, of course, exists. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's the World Economic Forum. It's where 3,000 of the world's top corporate and governmental leaders meet every year to discuss issues, to share policy approaches, to share legislation, even drafts of legislation. Small countries get copies of stuff that bigger countries are doing. Oh, you don't need to work that out for yourselves. We've already got a nice template for the laws there. That sort of soft manipulation of power. But it might be even more sinister than that to a certain extent, perhaps, because it doesn't make local political sense, does it? I mean, you would just bury the thing if you were the Labor Party. Why create?
Yeah, you would think that they would be looking for fights to back away from rather than new fights to enter into. But the WEF, in their annual report on global risk, identified misinformation and disinformation as the chief risk to global order in 2024. So that's their stated report. That's not conspiracy. I'm a law graduate. I read and assess the facts myself, and that is what they have said. So to see then regimes all around the world seeking to advance this in the face of pretty determined domestic political opposition is, I think, telling. But you asked about the things that have been brought in. I didn't think it would be possible for a bill like this to be worse, but they've come away from really fierce opposition. There were over 30,000 submissions to the first draft of the bill, and what they've brought back is, if possible, worse.
So how is it worse, Jordan? What's in there that wasn't in there before? I believe they've added a whole sort of categories of serious harm section with, it's like a vilification law, like we saw pushed through the Queensland Parliament the last sitting. Hate speech law that's been jammed into this now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so what they've done is they've incorporated anti-vilification provisions, which make it misinformation to cause serious harm to groups of people based on their gender identity, their sexual preference, all manner of things that really should have no place in this kind of draconian censorship regime. They've also added some very interesting serious harms with respect to confidence in the financial and banking sector, which I think is very, very telling of how fragile the current state of things are in the Australian economy. If criticising the Reserve Bank or suggesting that fiat system might be getting manipulated with printing too much money, that could soon be categorised as causing serious harm to the system.
That is just totally extraordinary to me. I mean, I lived and worked across the Asia Pacific region for 20 years, and I lived in Asia. And I used to laugh at the fact that China and Singapore, which is relatively free state in a certain way, had these laws where at certain periods where you couldn't criticise, you couldn't not just criticise the bank or the national economy policy, but you couldn't even give the statistics, give the data, give the economic data, and speak about that publicly. So we're moving in the direction of absolute totalitarian governmental control of basic the right to basically criticise the Reserve Bank and its policy approach, and also other banks and other financial institutions. This is
here's another one. Here's another great one, Damien. The AEC is one of the sort of protected species in this bill where they say you can't criticise the Electoral Commission. Now, there was a case earlier in the year where Craig Kelly successfully defended an action brought by the AEC, where the judge in that case found the AEC adopted a determined and oppositional approach to Craig Kelly that was difficult to understand and incomprehensible. So that was found in court. If Craig Kelly had made those allegations as he did before court, under this new regime, he could be characterised as causing serious harm through disinformation. So it's just, you don't even need to look into the distant past to see very, very good examples of why we should be free to question and criticise these things.
So we can't question and criticise our Reserve Bank. We can't question and criticise the Australian Electoral Commission. What else is it telling us that we can't do?
Well, what it isn't telling us is just as concerning, Damien, as what it is telling us. And it doesn't even define the threshold of serious harm itself. And because this legislation, as we talked about last time we spoke about it, works by placing restrictions and frameworks on the social media platforms themselves rather than individuals, this will have an impact on individuals, but it will be the social media platforms that face the consequences. And so it will be them, not the government, who ultimately decide what is misinformation and what is not. And what that is equivalent to is the government placing a loaded gun at the head of social media platforms and saying, you know what to do, you know what the right thing is. And the predictable effect of this will be an incredible chilling effect. So it's what we don't know that is the most concerning about this bill, not even what's in it.
Now, there are some exclusions, I understand. We know on this show that it excludes legacy media, It excludes academics. So we can't criticise we can criticise the ABC or the academics, but the academics of the ABC themselves can't become victims of this misinformation and disinformation bill. Is that right?
Yeah, well, you might remember that one of the features of the earlier draft of the bill was that the government itself was exempt from misinformation and disinformation, and they've realised that that might have been an optical bridge too far, so they've removed that very, very egregious exemption. But the ABC and SBS, which are government-owned media, as Elon Musk loves to paint them on X, which they hate, they will still be protected under the professional journalistic standards exemption. And
I wonder if I'll be protected under professional journalistic standards. I mean, I am a journalist. I've had a big career. It'd be interesting to see what this show cops.
Yes, yeah, but you might not be working for the right people anymore, Damien. That's what this bill seems to indicate. That something said by one of your counterparts on even Sky News might be not misinformation, but the identical statement made by you on this show might be misinformation. And one category exemption you didn't mention was satire. So essentially, someone saying the same sentence in a satirical sense might not be misinformation, or might be exempt misinformation more accurately, whereas the same sentence said with a straight face seriously, and let's just imagine that satire is never said deadpan with a straight face.
Oh no, satire never comes deadpan with a straight face.
The whole point of satire is that you shouldn't be able to tell whether it's satire or not. And there's a channel that I'm sure you probably have a similar love-hate relationship to me with, which is Friendly Geordies on YouTube. Now, I think some of their content is, I don't agree with their politics, but some of it is very, very funny and very cutting and
necessary,
right to the heart of it, and necessary.
And he's a great
and he, who is a massive ALP supporter, he loves Kevin Rudd, he loves, the ALP. He has said, why would any government do this? This will be abused. So he's come out and done a 15-minute video against it. So I think that's really telling.
Right, and it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense, as you said at the start. All right, we're going around a big circle because, so who's pulling the strings? What's the driver here? It's hard not to get a little bit sort of conspiratorial about thinking about that. Okay, so comedy and satire are exempt, but so we just turn the other side into a comedy show.
We might have to get into the comedy business, you and I.
A little hat on, that's all I have to do.
I mean, this bill is just the first of a number of legislative plans that the government has and that future governments will have. They're talking about an integrity in politics omnibus bill, which would seek to introduce misinformation and disinformation provisions specifically for elections. That's what they want to be in a position to arbitrate the line between what is true and what is not, to silence and stifle dissenting voices and political and media competition. So this bill is this bill is the worst of both censorship and protectionism.
Yeah, it really is. So it's great to see we've at least got one political party, albeit a small one at the moment, but hopefully growing. You guys are standing up against it loudly and clearly and with the right political ideology, I think, and philosophy behind it, Jordan. It is deadly serious. We do joke about it, but this is deadly serious for our country. We lose free speech, we lose everything. So just to wrap up, you've got, what do we do? Where do we go from here? How do we protest this? I understand that probably too late for a lot of our viewers, but those watching as the show comes, our show releases and drops on Friday nights. So those watching Friday night, Saturday morning might be able to participate in a rally, I understand, in Melbourne.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a free speech rally tomorrow from 11 till 2 at Flagstaff Gardens. This is not just a Libertarian Party affair. We've got Warren Pickering, my counterpart, the lead Senate candidate for One Nation. We've got Ruben from the Free Speech Union, Crystal Mitchell and others. And really, this is just about pushing back, making our voices heard against this bill and demonstrating that even in Victoria, the harshest socialist hellhole in the country, there are people who are opposed to this bill.
Great. Thanks for your time, Jordan. People can keep an eye out also for similar events in other parts of the country, but I think we've all got to get right behind this. Jordan Ditloff, the Senate candidate for the Libertarian Party in Victoria, joining us there.
Thanks, Damien.
If you enjoyed that segment, there is lots more where that came from. Head over now to our website at othersidetv.com.au and sign up to join us in our mission to revolutionise Australian media and fight the toxic woke culture that's wrecking our peace and prosperity. We are back with new content from Friday, January 24. There's another side to the stories that matter and a better way to view the world. The Other Side. Check us out at othersidetv.com.au. If you have a Netflix or other streaming media account from a global company and you're on holidays and log in from another country, you may have noticed that shows that are available in those other countries are different. That's because different media companies have different deals with different streaming services in different countries. Imagine being able to log into Netflix, though, as if you were in America, or maybe a country that speaks a language other than English that you speak, to access more shows, but you can do it all without leaving your couch here in Australia. Well, there is a way. There is a way. Private Internet Access VPN is a virtual private network. You download their app onto your phone, your TV, your computer, whatever you use, and it'll route your data through a different server location. Not only can you access more content, but a VPN keeps you safe and secure and your family safe so that you can't be tracked by prying eyes of big government and big corporations. And it will not massively slow down your internet speeds or make it harder to use your devices like some other VPNs do. Private Internet Access, PIA VPN. It's quick and easy to install, and once you've downloaded it, that is pretty much it. And the great news is if you sign up for PIA VPN, you are also helping the other side heaps and getting great value for money as well. And you can sign up using our special Other Side code for less than $3 a month. That's a whopping 83% off the normal price, and you'll get the first 4 months free. Just go to piavpn.com/otherside right now to get our special deal. That's piavpn.com/otherside.